Most people don't know how to change an agreement that's not working.
Yes.
They don't even think that that's possible.
And they're afraid of like having the difficult conversation to change
Right.
direction. And so they wait until the very last minute, and then they're dropping their integrity. It's such an interesting eat your own tail kind of thing.
And what that does is literally eat up your creative space. So what arises is creative impulse. And that's been so delicious because it's not as if I'm inventing it, it's coming through me.
Hi, my Katie.
Hello, Sophie. What a joy to see you.
Always, always. And I love that t-shirt on you. We should have the name of that brand.
Yes, it's so comfy. So my idea about fashion is first comfort, and then beauty. And then, if it's easy, like this is easy.
But
That's
you also like your first one is also you like a touch of crazy, like a touch of
yeah, it has to be
unexpected.
a little edgy or different. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember going to your closet when I first met you and noticing there was a stitch unexpected and there was a sleeve not where you want, like just bizarre, really cool creative things. What a way we'll talk
Exactly.
about creativity. That's kind of one of the topics I wanted to explore with you because I spent time with people last week and we've started this little mastermind. There's 3 girlfriends and we like to talk and we give like the hot seat to one person every call. And then we go deep. And this one friend of mine has this, she's very high power, executive, serious job, but she really is an artist at heart in her mind, being very separate from the other one. And so the conversation was very much like, I should quit my job, but I can't really live off my art. And we were chatting, the 2 others were really kind of pushing a little bit of like, you don't have to live of your art necessarily, especially not at the beginning. And so that led me to kind of want to chat with you about this because you and I have really creative lives. Like I feel like we both, like we've taken on different routes of how we express, certainly in fashion for you and some for me. But I want to talk about how to integrate a creative experience, expression in the midst of other things that we're doing. And I was curious to like hear where that is for you.
Wow. Yeah, what a great subject. And what I'm also hearing is that, I can be creative or I can make a living. Like I can be creative or I can be productive.
Yes.
I can't do both. And and also if there are certain rules about being creative that I think are invisible to a lot of people. Like if you're creative, you basically you're not really ever going to make any money or be,
Yes.
so the
Yeah.
artist, the
The
starving
starving, the
artist,
starving artist.
the
Yeah.
starving artist. So it's not just the artist, but the starving artist, So in Van Gogh and all of the, the people who suffered for their art.
Mhm.
So letting creativity. So for me, creativity is at the basis of everything. So
Mhm.
I even think of, we frame taking responsibility is actually reclaiming your creativity.
Ooh.
So that if I'm in alignment, if I'm appreciating myself and I'm really looking at what is it that I'm wanting to create in life and I'm supporting that, then everything becomes creative.
Wow.
But if I have like rules, like one of the things that used to get in the way of me being creative is that I would save it for dessert. Like I have to get my work done first. And
Oh,
then if I have time left over, and there's never time left over.
yeah.
So the first thing that really made a huge difference for me was putting creativity first.
Mm.
And this is we've studied this now. Gay and I in our community have studied this. So if you devote 10 minutes a day to exploring your creativity, that's enough to start blooming your
Ooh.
creative spirit. That yeah, where you're and the practice is spending 10 minutes just focusing on and playing with something that you love to do. So it doesn't have to be like art or music, it could be creating a new recipe. It could be, I would put on music and let myself just move around
Mm-hmm.
for 10 minutes. And then because from that, I get ideas that, have really shaped everything I've created has come out of that 10 minutes
Mm-hmm.
of just letting myself play with movement, because that's such a source of, replenishment and joy for me. So the whole idea of creativity is that you're doing something where time disappears.
Mm.
Love doing it. You just love doing it. And you can look back over your, like in your childhood, what was something that you just loved to do? Like I loved to draw trees, but
Okay.
more than that, I'd put on music and I'd dance around. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've been doing that. In fact, my mother's first entry in my baby book, which I didn't find until I was in my 20s, was that Katie, she called me Kathy though. Kathy loves to pull herself up in her crib and dance.
Oh,
That
wow.
was her first entry. And so I was just really stunning. So, long rambling there, but the point is that to be creative, make that your first priority.
I love that. It kind of, I'm making a distinction inside myself because I grew up, my brother can draw your face and you actually would recognize that it's you when I
Wow.
draw, stick figures and I barely
Yeah.
know that they're stick figures. So we come from a very different talent, let's just say, or initial. And my parents used to say that the creative one was my brother and I was the intelligent one. So my poor brother, for a while, thought he wasn't that smart, and I certainly thought I wasn't creative. And that is such a load of crap. That is just such a thing to give to children because I'm incredibly creative. That's the truth. It's like
Oh, that just, from the time you wake up, I mean, probably even in your sleep, you're just creating things. So that's your engine, seems like to
little do
me.
you know that I will wake up at 2 a.m. and I'm like so bubbling of ideas. I go back to sleep, but I will definitely get up and follow my thing. But something happened years ago, 20, I don't know, a long time ago, where 30, my daughter was just born, so 30, and my parents were coming to visit in America. Look at one of the kiddies really liked that conversation.
Oh, yes,
I know.
there's for
I
those
know.
for those of you who are watching, there's a kitty.
Yeah, there is. And so my parents were coming to visit, and there was a giant hole in our house on that wall. And my parents don't do hole in the wall as a general
No, not
practice.
allowed, not accepted.
No, no, no. And at the time, I deeply cared. And so I thought, I'm going to buy a canvas that I'm going to put above the hole and I'm going to do something, something. And I started painting because they were coming like tomorrow. And I just was, I wanted to hide the hole. And so I did this painting, which I still have, by the way. And it was incredible. It was so cool because I didn't care. I was just like, splashing
Uh-huh.
colors and doing something. And because I don't have an expectation that I could do anything remotely interesting, I did something really, really interesting. And that started me on this road where I very much like what you were just in your own words saying, like conversations are creative. The way to respond to things are creative. When something resists in life, I become more creative. When a company that I was founded broke down, I became so creative. It's like creativity is my breath. It's like it's all I do, really.
Yes, it is the structure. It's the context in which everything occurs. And so
Exactly.
what we sometimes I think the division that you're pointing to is that we can either be productive and on purpose, or
Yes.
we can be creative and crazy and irresponsible and
Yes.
have to have a patron and we can't get things done and we forget things. And so these stereotypes of sort of the irresponsible artist and the hard worker, but you can't be both. And what you're saying and what my experience is if I have creativity as the fuel, the source, that I can be creative in my productivity and in my relationships and in my agreements. And there's that idea too of growth and flexibility rather than rigidity.
Oh, amen to that. Yeah, because what I find that happens in certainly the productivity that I teach, it is for giving yourselves the space to go do other things, like art or like, creating things. And I was working with someone a few days ago who was given this week an enormous opportunity for his work, like something that's so big, like could literally affect something that's happening in the country, like a really, really big thing. And as we're talking about, his board and Trello and what, how he's organizing his life, and he also wants to do art and start, back to when he was younger and he was painting. And so we're talking, and at the end, he's like, oh my God, this is such exciting possibilities with my work. And I was like, and yet I'm most excited with the fact that you're going to have time to paint. And that makes me really, really, like, I was genuinely so much more bubbled over the fact that he had created for himself the space or the desire or the spaciousness in his head to be able to do some art. And it was just so, as what you just were describing, we had the conversation about how creativity can be infused in everything we do and doesn't have to be such a, separated act.
And I also hear you pointing to that we don't value art as much as we do stuff, getting stuff done.
Yeah.
Working and being productive. And, that when I even hear myself saying it, there's fear infused in the, I've got to get things done because if I don't,
then what?
I'll starve, or, people won't like what I do, or, I think that fear basis, but if I'm letting the juice, the fuel be creativity, if something doesn't work, well, I'll just create something else. It has that kind of flexibility of being able to pivot and being able to move in a direction. I was just reminded of water. That water will find its way around obstacles.
But it needs banks. It needs something.
Right, because otherwise it's just a flood.
Exactly.
So that balance between structure and fluidity, I think, is part of what we're talking about, that creativity is the flow and structure allows you to have a form for the creativity to actually flow. And that balance is, I think it's one of the things that we say. I was just having this big thought come in. So a guy goes, that it's harder for people who are loose to get tighter than it is for people who are tight and a little bit rigid and tense to get loose. And so the structure, in my experience, so that people who don't know how to actually get things done, I think, are more limited in their choices in life than people who know how to get things done, but they're not having a lot of fun because they haven't given themselves the chance to play and to be flexible. But it's that balance, for each of us, and it's a dynamic balance. It's not like I'm going to, do this day and it's going to be the same every day.
Yeah, because as you're saying that, I'm reminded of how many years I've known you, that we get on the phone and you'll say, I just created this new class and I'm gathering people in this new way and I'm doing all these things. And I've never seen you, and God knows it's a thing I've studied since I was very young, this whole idea of like, how do I get the stuff that matters done, and how do I not get trapped in the widget making, the productivity that's like people are just checking off things that mean absolutely nothing, versus those who have giant, meaningful things, but they don't seem to really get their act together to sit down and do it. You strike me as someone who, and I'm curious, like, is it also a certain intuition that you follow? Like, I want to see what the ingredients are there, but I find you, not only do you come up with ideas, you break them down into how they're going to get done. You're easy to delegate. I watch you pass on to different people what needs to be done gracefully. I don't see you struggle with that at all, and yet you get an enormous amount of shit done. So I'm curious.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I have several decades of having the experience of being an entrepreneur. So, and actually, I was just thinking about, I decided I was going to create what I wanted to create with my life when I was about 2.
years old.
Yes, 2 years old. And part of that, it was part of the benefit of not actually being very well taken care of.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I thought, well, if I'm it.
Uh-huh.
This is up to me. And so it created a little bit of a, by myself kind of
Yeah,
persona.
yeah,
I can do it, and I'm the only one who
yeah,
can do it. And and that sort of evolved into a big super competent where,
yeah.
I'm the one who can do everything. And
Yes.
and delegating, and I know. But as you were speaking, what occurred to me has created that spaciousness is the ongoing practice of integrity.
Mm.
So our integrity skills, our integrity cards, the 4 pillars of integrity, I've been practicing those for over 30 years. I mean,
Mhm.
deliberately, and we've been inventing them like they didn't just arrive.
Uh-huh.
It was through the practice of what will make life aligned
Mhm.
and easier, so that I experience ease and flow rather than, And so I realized, like, just for example, with agreements,
Mhm.
I'm impeccable with my agreements.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And if I say I'm not going to do something, I don't.
Mhm.
The time that it took to engineer that, but then to integrate it
Mhm.
so that
Mhm.
it's become choiceless.
Mhm.
And I also will note, like, no, that's not agreement I want
I
to
was
make.
gonna say yes, but not in a rigid way, because I've seen you decide not to do something, and even sometimes actually change your mind, but not in a not integrity kind of way, giving enough people time to people to change something if needed to, never in a non, like, yes, I have not, I've never seen you drop your integrity for something, even like
Exactly.
convenience, or it's true. Mhm.
Exactly. And so those skills, and particularly with agreements, the big skill is learning how to change something that's not working.
Yes, which is
That
integrity.
eh, which is integrity. So it's not
Exactly.
like it's a permanent thing, and I have to, I have to be perfect. But most people don't know how to change an agreement that's not working.
Yes.
They don't even think that that's possible.
And they're afraid of like having the difficult conversation to change
Right.
direction. And so they
Right.
wait until the very last minute, and then they're dropping their integrity. It's such
Right.
an interesting eat your own tail kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. And what that does is literally eat up your creative space.
Yeah.
So the result, what I was looking at with that as a bigger question is that if I'm in integrity, I have no inner debris.
Yes.
There's not any crossfire like, oh my God, I forgot to do that. Or, oh, I'm really mad at her and I'm not ever going to be, there's just no,
There's no noise.
there's no
Mhm.
noise in there. And so what arises is creative impulse.
Yeah.
And that's been so delicious because it's not as if I'm inventing it, it's coming through me.
Yeah.
And I think each of us have access to the bigger, consciousness, but also what's wanting to come through me,
Yeah. Yeah.
not through other people. It's not like, oh, I can't do what she's doing, and so I'm a failure. Rather than,
No.
what is it that's wanting to come through me?
Yeah.
And it's almost always really surprising. So I would never have imagined when I was little that I would be working primarily with what happens when people move and breathe and communicate in different ways. So
Hmm.
basically, play. What happens from play?
Hmm. Back to when you were two. You're back.
Actually, when I was two, right?
Exactly.
But the the willingness to have a conversation about this is working or this isn't working, but it's really about being authentic. So that's also part of the integrity skills. Am I willing to be real with
Hmm.
you or with anybody? And since that's what I'm committed to, and I've been practicing it, if there's a little niggle that comes up, I just go ahead and speak to it. Or,
Hmm.
oh, I was just feeling like something was going on here, and I really would like to surface that because feeling a little disconnection here.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I attend to those also when they first come up.
Yes, you don't wait till they're enormous and then they really are difficult to deal with. You deal with them when they're whispers. I've seen you do.
Yeah, exactly. And we say that the universe will speak to you first with a feather
Hmm.
and then with a sledgehammer.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Where often translates in like hurting your body and doing much more damaging things. It's really interesting how you spoke to our own, like when you spoke of the other person, like my brother knows how to paint and draw, and I took a art therapy really to heal that part of myself. It wasn't to do art so much as just really exploring this deep miss and lack and judgment that I was holding on myself. And I remember actually the painting that's behind us, that's behind me right now, which I painted myself. And I love
Well, I just found out that you painted this fabulous
I
thing.
know, and there's
Say
like
more about the middle of it there
so
too.
let me tell you a little bit also about
Sure, please.
I started I love texture and I love color, and then so I don't know how to draw faces, which for a long time was a limitation. Turns out it's not, because that teacher, that woman that I was studying with, I was trying to do something and I was struggling and not struggling in a heavy way, but I was grappling. Grappling is a better word. I was just like, oh, I like this part, but I don't like this part. Okay, what do I do with it? And at some point I had a bit of a discouragement, and she said something, and I spoke to my brother being the one that's so talented, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, oh, you're saying that he's kind of a photographer. He can actually replicate what he sees and what we see, but you're not. Okay, I get that. So what do you want to say? Like, how do you going to say it? Like, for her, it was like, nobody can say what I want to say or paint what I want to paint or do what I want to do but me. It's like, it's
Yes.
literally the minutes of my entire life that has led. So this painting, interestingly, has a letter written underneath, because I felt frustrated that I couldn't paint that face or that whatever. And so I started writing with these like giant, big oil, grabs, and I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And so there's this giant letter. And then I covered it up because it was interesting to work with the texture and the words and the letters and the things. Plus,
Exactly.
it wasn't about the letter. It was more about the expression. But what stayed with me so profoundly is that I only can say what I want to say the way I want to say it. And that is true for absolutely every human, maybe even cats. I mean, the cats come in exactly when they want to come in and do whatever
That's
they want to do. So after all, it's there too, if not more. So my point being, it doesn't matter if you don't know how to do this one way, do this other way. Like, find another way to express yourself, not shut down because you can't do it this particular way. Who cares? The creativity is to find another way. I love that.
So what I'm hearing in this that I think is so useful is that you have let go of the judgment.
Yes.
Like it has to. The world tells us this artists it has to be this certain way.
Yes.
And the other thing I'm hearing is that what the fuel for you is learning something new.
Yes.
So, what Carol Dweck calls a growth mindset. You live in a growth mindset.
I do.
And that the growing and changing and shaping, that is the creative flow. And that's what you live in, and can assist other people to find their own engine. I think the main thing that gets in the way of that is having integrated the judgments of big people when you were little about how you're supposed to be expressing yourself in the world.
Yes.
You're like, girls can't do this, or boys are supposed to be this way, or you're not big
artists have to be this way.
Right, artists are this way, but you're not really an artist. I mean, look what you just did. That's not really art.
Yeah.
And we integrate those. Like, oh, I guess I can't do that. I guess that's just for other people, rather than.
Yeah, and what's really beautiful with that, and particularly the kind of art I'm into, as I just finished my sphere, my concrete sphere. I'm already onto making something else that possibly more, of course. But really, what was really, and I certainly felt it when I was making this painting or other paintings I've painted, and that ball, that sphere, is that I don't have to stop until I like it. It's like another thing that happened as little people is there was an art class that ends at 3. And so you better
finish it up. Finish it up.
And it's like, finish it up. What? Like I can totally come back and keep at it. That was one of the things that happened with this woman, Sharon Kagan, which I would love to put the link in, because she was really very talented at healing people of that particular conversation. And she was basically like, you like this part, keep this part, we'll see how it integrates with the rest. Like, there's no Like you could leave the studio and come back the next day and cover it up if you wanted. Like it completely alleviates
Mm.
this, like there is a finish line. There's no finish line. I could actually, to this day, I can go back and continue to paint this painting if I want to, or add to my sphere if I want to. And a lot of people really have this very limited, perfectionistic kind of,
Well,
it
we
has to
get
be right.
that from our training. I'm just,
You know?
remembering, like I never liked to draw, like within the lines.
Yes, I'm sure.
So,
I could have told you that already. Yes.
and also I've always had difficulty with people telling me what to do.
Yes, yes, that's
So
true. That's
just-
true. No.
So,
Funny.
so I think part of this too is sloughing off those rules
Yeah.
that people have organized, and I think part of that is just from fear of
Yes.
is this going to look stupid? People aren't going to like this. I don't have any talent.
Yes. Am I
I-
going to get embarrassed, humiliated?
Yes, and so the something that you love to do that literally I find when I'm doing what I love to do that I disappear also.
You lose track of time, you're saying. Like,
I lose track of time, but also my any I don't actually feel my body in a certain way. I am the work. I'm reminded of T.S. Eliot has this wonderful quote that you are the music while the music lasts. And I experience when I'm in my creativity that I become creativity.
Yes.
Even with, like I'm working with somebody,
yes.
in a class and I'm interacting with somebody, I'm in that flow of
Yes.
creativity and it's so delicious. And I want that for everybody in whatever realm. I think it has to do with a structure where you feel safe.
Yes.
And then permission to flow.
Yes.
And that it's going to be messy. I remember years ago too, because I come from, like you have to clean up for yourself and, everything has to be really tidy. And creativity is messy.
Yes, if it's a good one.
If it's a good one, it's going to be really messy. So
Yeah.
making space for messiness in your life is, I think, also really, really important.
It reminds me of this great experiment they did with these children, maybe teenagers, where they split the room. Two groups went in two separate rooms, and one room, they had the same supplies, lots of paint, paper, all things, scissors, all the things. And one group, they said, do whatever you want, enjoy, do art, play, help each other, have fun, do whatever. And to the other room, they said, you have about 2 hours, at the end of which we will compare notes and there will be a winner as to the best piece of art. Yeah, you know exactly where this is going.
Yes.
And a few hours later, they looked at the results of what these two rooms created, and it was absolutely daunting for me to find out about. Like the room that was told to do whatever they wanted, not only was the art more interesting and more creative, but people were laughing and painting on each other's stuff and just, completely playing.
Yes.
The other room, people were like hiding behind their pencil and not wanting, like kind of like protecting, because now there was a competition and they were going to be, judged against some whatever we judge against, that kind of moment.
Right. Winning and losing. Yeah.
And the art was so much less interesting. That was the point. And it really, that stayed with me, that it's like if I start doing it in a particular mindset that's tight and that's to be judged by other people, I'm frozen. There's nothing that comes out that's remotely not only joyful for me, but interesting in the art itself. I think that's
what you're pointing to is that we can invite impulse.
Yeah.
The creative impulse, but we can't push it or force it.
Yes.
And especially with rules that we're used to that makes us feel less than.
Yes, or risking being less than compared. Mm-hmm. And yes, very much.
Yeah, and everybody I know who has recovered their creativity has one of those stories of, the teacher saying, "Oh, you're never going to be an artist," or "You're never going to."
I hope you have a plan B.
I hope you have it right. Exactly. Like my mother said, it's so good that you are such a good typist that you learned how to type
Oh,
because
that,
you'll have something to fall back on.
oh my
When
Lord.
you're
Hopefully that's a little bit generational. Maybe.
well, yeah, it could be. Yes, but I do think there is
There is with the reduction. Yes.
our pull toward safety and our pull toward adventure, and and I think that a rich life needs both. And what I'm saying is that you get your safety from integrity, from the practice of integrity, because
Oh,
you own it. It's not about what they're doing, it's about your establishing you're in alignment with life. It's not like a good bad thing. It's really I'm aligned with the way life is moving. And
and when you take a, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but
that's
it
fine.
struck me that when comes the time to take a risk, my integrity is my backbone. I start
Exactly.
from, I'm a solid person. I show up, I keep my word. It's like all that stuff is so solid that I can put my nose out and go do, 350-pound spheres in concrete that I've never done before.
Exactly. And the other thing that people don't realize is that when you're operating in integrity, it's much more efficient.
Yes.
So just think about just one example of, in the realm of agreements again. If I've said I'm going to do something, like meet you, and then I forgot. And then I don't tell you about it or handle it because I feel embarrassed. And so it's occupying my mind. I'm separated from you. I'm not focusing on what I want to do next because I'm clogged up with that.
Yes.
And it's decreasing my productivity,
Yes.
my space for creativity. So we think, in operating, that's just a whole bunch of rules. It's not. It's really the way that life operates. And
Mhm.
I'm in alignment with that. And then, I'm like a kite then that
Mhm.
the air can take me because I'm not weighted down with all of the different things that I said I was going to do and I haven't done, and the feelings I haven't felt, and all of those things. And so I become much more effective.
Mhm. Mhm. And more present. That's the other thing that strikes me with the people I work with. They sit down to write and they say, "Oh, I can't seem to write." You're not writing. You're holding on to whatever's going on inside of you that is not resolved, not written anywhere. And so it's floating like a pinball machine in your head. So when you sit down to write, you're not writing. You're managing the noise that happens when you slow down for a second, which is why people don't slow down. That's partly why they don't be with themselves for a moment to wrap up this conversation we just had, where we literally talked about being, playing, and loving all in one chunk. What a perfect alignment. But when people are able to speak to this, the integrity you're speaking of, when people are able to have this resonance, first of all, it's an intact channel. It's like there's no leaks.
Right. There's no leaks
There's no leaks. And so you
of your aliveness or your own creativity and your connection with you and your connection with the universe.
yes,
Coming
it's like one. It's all one. Oh, that is so like I love when we start somewhere and we're not sure where we're going, but we're going. And
Well, I got to just tell you that my cat, Allie, whom some of you saw earlier,
yes.
was we were in the middle of conversation. She came bursting through the door and bounced onto the bed. And I thought,
The
she's,
energy.
she feels it.
She
So
feels the
that's always great
liveliness.
feedback for me.
The cat. Well, for me too. Your cats are my feedback too. I love it. I love you. Thank you. This was
Love you. Thank you so much. Yum, yum, yum.
Bye.